Number 10, Sundered Grove. This is a Stage 4 variant, and is a very controversial map, to say the least. I'm a firm Grove enjoyer, although there are definitely things to dislike about it. This map had one of the weirdest releases of all time. Back in October of 2020, a month and a half after the 1.0 update, the map was released exclusively for Google Stadia. Then, a month later, in November, it was released for PC, and didn't come to console until 8 months later in June of the next year, which is fucking ridiculous. The decision to put this out on Stadia a month early was really weird, and definitely rubbed people the wrong way, myself included. I got the feeling this was supposed to come out with the 1.0 update, but was withheld due to a deal with Google. At least everybody got it for free later, but it did strike me as a bit odd. Now, clearly, this did not save Stadia. I don't think I've ever met anyone that's played the Stadia version of this game, but I'm sure there's at least one of you out there. History lesson aside, let's talk about the map itself. It's, of course, a mushroom-themed map. You have mushroom geysers, mushroom platforms, and a legendary chest that's marked by glowing mushrooms. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the implementation of the legendary chest on this map, especially when you look at the other two Stage 4 variants. Siren's Call, you have to fight Awu to get a red, and Abyssal, you have the guaranteed legendary that's always in the same spot. I liked how those two maps have very different ways to get the guaranteed red, and Groves just felt like a rehash of the legendary on Abyssal, except it's a bit more inconvenient. Looking for the glowing mushrooms is a cool concept, but in practice, I don't think it's really that fun. I wish this map had its own unique way to get a red. Maybe you have to do parkour to get it, or complete a minigame of some kind. I don't know, it's a minor nitpick, but I think the reason a lot of people don't like this map is because of the enemy types. This map is suffocating. Every time you load into this map, you'll have like 3 natural vagrant spawns, dune striders, titans, oh my. This map is known for having very tanky enemies. You have greater wisps, golems, mini mushrooms, titans, dune striders, and if you don't have the DLC, you have to deal with Lemurians and Elder Lemurians. The Elder Lemurians specifically were brutal on this map. Due to the map being very vertical, sometimes elders would just land right on top of you and spread shot you. It was not a fun time. If you have the DLC, they are replaced with gups, which are way easier to deal with and give you a lot of gold, so that's definitely a plus. This is also the only map that can spawn scavs pre-loop. You have to get there pretty late to do it, and it is rare, but the fact they can spawn here at all is crazy. I think the DLC really improved this map with its alternate enemy types. The DLC also gave Grove its own music track, They Might As Well Be Dead, which is one of my favorite tracks in the game. The thing I like most about this map is the atmosphere. This map does it better than most. It really makes you feel like you're in a jungle. I didn't really like it on release, but I've come to appreciate it more over time. Real quick, if you do find yourself enjoying this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button. I'm saving up so I can hire a Fortnite coach for my grandson. Every little bit helps. Thank you. At number 9, Distant Roost. This is my favorite Stage 1 variant, and I wanted to put it higher, but I couldn't justify it because it is a Stage 1, and there's really not that much going on here. This was the first map developed for the game, and I do feel like it still holds up really well. Aside from maybe sulfur pools, this is the smallest map in the game, and I'm a huge fan of that. I think sometimes less is more when it comes to map size, especially for a Stage 1. The other two maps are Siphoned Forest and Titanic Plains, and while I like both of those maps, there's just a lot of running from point A to point B with no movement speed. It'll take you 2 minutes to get from one end of Siphoned to the other, and I just don't think that's necessary for a Stage 1. It makes sense for a map like Sky Meadow to be huge because it's Stage 5, and by that point you'll hopefully be really powerful and have tons of movement speed to get around. But on Stage 1, you really don't have any of that, and moving around is really sluggish. Roost really caters to that, loot is a lot more condensed here, and the geysers make travel a lot faster than just walking. The beauty of this map comes from its simplicity. There are very few maps that feel as well thought out and refined as Distant Roost. Today's video is brought to you by Manscaped, the global men's lifestyle brand that is revolutionizing the landscape of men's grooming. Today we embark on a journey into their latest treasure chest, the Perfect Package 5.0 Ultra, featuring their all-new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra Electric Trimmer. Prepare for the ultimate gaming grooming routine with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. This trimmer elevates your grooming game with its next-gen dual skin-safe blade heads, now accompanied by an upgraded trimmer blade. The upgraded trimmer blade features longer, wider, and rounded teeth that cut through hair with ease. Tough on hair, yet incredibly gentle on the skin. Say goodbye to those endless passes. It's all about getting it right the first time. But here's the real game changer. The foil blade. Crafted to transcend the boundaries of your typical trim achieved with the trimmer blade, this foil blade is designed to leave you with a finish that's irresistibly sleek and utterly bare. For that added layer of freshness, introduce the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant to keep the funk at bay. Just as you protect your fortress, your Your nether realms deserve the royal safeguarding. Head over to manscaped.com and get your hands on the Perfect Package 5.0 Ultra today. When you use my promo code DISPUTED, you'll get 20% off, plus free international shipping, plus one free gift. Thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. Number 8, Rally Point Delta. Like Roost, this map has been in the game since the very first early access release, and it's a classic. It was the original snowy map before Siphon came along, and I think it still holds up as a great map. One of my favorite things about this map is the bosses, of which you have the Magma Worm, Imp Overlord, and Clay Dunestrider. All of which have great boss items, so if you have a Tricorn, coming here is a pretty good idea. The enemy variety here is a little bit trickier. You have Lemurians, Imps, and Wisps, which aren't too bad, but if you have the DLC, you also have to deal with Blind Pests and Vermin. People like to complain about pests, but I really don't think they're that bad. They do deal a lot of damage, but they can be countered very easily just by walking in a circle. Vermin, on the other hand, make me want to scream. They move in unpredictable patterns and can actually move faster than you in some of the higher difficulties. Seriously, some of my least favorite enemies. There are actually quite a few unique things about this map, one of my favorite ones being if you're playing Mercenary, you can actually soft lock yourself into this crate, pretty dope. You also have the TC-280 drone, which costs 14 times the amount of a regular chest, and is probably the biggest ripoff in the game. Unless you have drone parts, these guys usually don't last very long and will usually die on the next stage. They also take up 40 spawn credits, which is one of the highest in the game. When this thing spawns on a stage, you'll find 2.5 less chests. There's also the Shrine of Order, which sequences all of your items of each rarity into a large stack of a single item. This is the only map it can spawn on, except for Commencement, which has a guaranteed one. Usually not worth it, but there are situations where it can be useful. But really the reason this map is here is because of the timed security chest. This is one of my favorite mechanics in the entire game. Basically, if you get to the stage in under 10 minutes, you get a free Prion accumulator. I really love the concept of this, and I wish they did more stuff like it. It creates an added incentive for going faster and creates a really cool metagame decision-making process. I really wish the DLC would have added more stuff like this. Unfortunately, the Prion is a pretty mid-equipment. To get this, you have to miss out on a lot of loot on stages 1 and 2, and a Prion usually doesn't make up for that loss. I just wish it was something a little bit more worth it, like a capacitor, recycler, random red, just something that justifies getting it a little bit more. But regardless, I love this mechanic, and I wish we saw more stuff like it. Number 7, Scorched Acres. Like Rally Point, this is another Stage 3 variant, and I just like this map. Of the Stage 3s, this one is by far the easiest, lots of open space to run around in, and the enemies here don't pose much of a threat. It's just beetles, imps, wisps, and the occasional Clay Templar. This enemy list has actually been the exact same since 2019. I don't know why they didn't add any DLC enemies to the map, especially Clay Apothecary. I feel like that one's a no-brainer for the stage. But as it stands, Clay Templars are really the only threat, and even those can be countered pretty easily by having a few repulsion armors. The boss roster is also really good. It's Dunestriders, Imp Overlords, and Grove Tenders, which, like RPD, all have great boss items. Dunestriders are annoying, but if you stand in this spot, you can actually get them to jump off the side of the map. I just love this map. It's a good time, especially when you compare it to a suffocating map like Sulfur Pools, which can be really brutal with its enemy types. I like how open this map is. It's very easy to see loot from across the map, and one very small thing I like is this Newt location that's out of bounds. Kind of rewards you for exploring, and I like it. It's a nice touch. That's really all I have to say about this one, just good old reliable Scorched Acres. Number 6, Commencement, otherwise known as Damoon. I feel like this one had to be on the list somewhere. It's the last level of the game, home to the boss fight, and home to my favorite track in the game. Now, to be clear, I'm talking about the 2.0 version of the stage. The original one we got in the 1.0 update left a lot to be desired. The original was basically just a long hallway with a boss fight at the end. And while it did have some features like the item soups, lunar area, and Shrine of Order, it was a much more bare bones version of what we have now. It didn't have a portal to take you out of the Mithrix arena, so if you're playing on Eclipse 3 or higher, you would just die if you didn't have a fall damage cancel. Very, very frustrating. I will say though, playing this for the first time with Coalescence as you make your way through this long corridor was a mood, and I think the hallway design did fit the track a little bit better than the current version of the stage. With that said, the current moon is a lot more polished. You have elements from the original moon, but instead of being a corridor, there's a giant tree in the center, and surrounding the tree are 4 different areas. You still have the item soups and lunar pods from before, but now you also have pillars that once charged take you to the boss fight. If you couldn't tell, I'm not really a big fan of pillars. Sitting in a circle waiting for teleporters to charge is something the devs fall back on a lot, and I'm kind of sick of it. I got the opportunity to ask one of the devs about this, and I will say the idea behind it was pretty cool here. They were meant to correlate with different build types. If you have a tanky build with a lot of damage mitigation and healing, you do a blood pillar. If If you have a lot of survivability and endurance, you do a mass pillar. If you have a lot of damage, you do a soul pillar. And if your double Dutch game is top notch, you do a design pillar. Yeah, I'm not really sure what that last one is supposed to be, but I like the idea, even though it was executed kind of poorly. Again, I think it would be better if there's some sort of challenge or challenges. Maybe you'd have to fight a mini-boss, do a puzzle. Parkour, I'm going to keep bringing up parkour because it should be in the game. Risk 1 had it. It was mostly absent in this game. Bring it back, please. Maybe some character-specific stuff like the Providence Trials and Returns, but something like that would make it feel more like a gauntlet than fuck, I gotta do pillars again. The one thing I like about pillars is it really pushed the community to find ways around them. Doing pillars is one way to get Mithrix, but as long as you can get up the tree, you can fight them. And this has led us to find all different types of pillar skips. Last year, we found an insane one with a weird momentum bug in safer spaces. This tech right here is the most baller shit ever, and it's why this map is as high as it is. At number 5, Abyssal Depths. This is another map I just like. I don't really have a good explanation for it being this high. It's just something I enjoy. It doesn't really do anything crazy. There's not a ton to talk about here. It's kind of similar to Roost in that it's very compact and it has a very big emphasis on verticality. It has a lot of vents for traversing the different levels, and there's a cave which is sometimes open and sometimes not. But when it is open, it actually adds a bunch of chests to the map. It has tons of loot, probably in second place behind Sky Meadow. You got the legendary chest, which is always in the same place. The bosses drop really good yellow items. You have Imp Overlords, Magma Worms, and Stone Titans. Titans are the exception to this. Neurals are pretty bad, but at least it's an easy boss. The enemies really aren't that bad. You have Lemurians, Imps, Gups, and then you do have Brass Contraptions and Elder Lemurians as the only somewhat hard enemies, but when compared to Larva, Vermin, and Vultures on Sirens, I'd take the Elders any day. But you do also have the Crabs. The Crabs are stinky, smelly, and I don't like them. They can rot in hell. I guess they already kind of are. At number 4, it's Abandoned Aqueduct. This map is here for basically one reason, and one reason only. Bans. This is the only map in the game that guarantees you specific items, I guess maybe aside from the Prion on Rally Point, but unlike the Prion, bans are not a mediocre equipment. They are some of the strongest and most universally consistent items in the game. If you're playing Loader or Railgunner and you get these items, you're basically set for the rest of the game. But even on somebody like Commando, bans are a great addition to any build, so long as you can find a way to proc them. This secret was really only meant for multiplayer. Rolling pots was an unintended mechanic. Rest in peace pot rolling on console, by the way. Apparently that's gone now. This is the closest thing we have to a minigame, and I love it. It's so janky and weird and frustrating at times, and I'm happy it's in the game. Now, there's definitely an argument to be made for this being unbalanced, and I would agree. I think it's definitely on the side of being a bit too powerful. Guaranteed bans being in the game makes the other two stages look bad by comparison, but I don't really mind it that much. I just wish there was more stuff like this in the game, just the little side missions you can do if you want. Secondary objectives other than just looting and activating the teleporter. Like, you know how Wetland had that cave underground for the Nukahana unlock? There's not really a reason to go back there after getting the achievement, but what if there's a broken item there? What if every stage had a broken item piece? And then you get to stage 5 and you can summon Exodia or whatever and get some kind of reward. How cool would that be? Aqueduct, and I guess Rally Point to a lesser degree, are the only stages that kind of do this, and it would be so cool to see more of this in the future. At number 3, Void Locust. Here's a map you don't see me talking about very often, because this map is disabled in Eclipse. Why, Hopu? Why would you do this? This is legitimately my favorite map in the whole game, and I can't even play it in my preferred difficulty. First of all, it looks beautiful. The atmosphere of this map is top-notch, with the whales in the background and the black hole in the distance, the purple portals and the slipstream that moves you across the entire map, although these could probably move you a little bit faster. The only enemies here are void enemies, and I guess sometimes you can get lunar family events. I didn't even know that because I can't play the map. The map serves as the predecessor to the Voidling fight, similar to how Commencement had the bottom portion with pillars before Mithrix. This is basically the same thing, but it's just its own stage. You can get here by doing void fields or going through the purple portal after stage 7. This map doesn't have normal chests, it does have void cradles though, and it does have its own version of pillars. But to be fair, I do think this map had the best implementation of the pillars concept because it actually punishes you for leaving the zone. Teleporters in the rest of the game are just more of a suggestion. You can stay in them if you want, but it's not necessary. The way Vocus does it is a lot more engaging. I will never understand why they didn't just make this an alternate to stage 5. All they would have needed to do is make a few changes and it would have been phenomenal. But as it is now, I never get to play it. I was gonna put this at number 1. That's how much I love this map. But maybe that's just because I haven't played it as much. But the number 2 spot is the Planetarium. This is the Voidling boss fight arena. I've been very critical of this fight in the past, so it may come as a surprise to see this so high up on the list. but damn, the stage is so good. Voidling is the only thing I dislike about it, which is a big one, but I want to take a second to appreciate the stage itself because they did a great job with it. The first time you spawn into the stage, it's immediately clear you have no idea what's coming. Where Void Locust was bright pinks and purples, the Planetarium is dark purple and black. You see planets orbiting you. Where you once saw marine life, you now only see the all-consuming void. A placid island of ignorance plays in the background, building suspense for a fight you're unprepared for. You spent the last hour in this run, and you're ready to end it. You look down and see a pathway of floating blocks leading to a massive arena. This map does atmosphere better than any other, and the song that plays during the fight is so manic and unsettling, just like Voidling itself. And when you finally think you've won, Voidling jumps through a portal and gets away. But you give chase, following Voidling through its own portal, and... Parkour! Yeah! We did it! Woo! Parkour! Okay, look, I'm really happy they put parkour somewhere in the game, but the implementation here was not the best. It was pretty easy, and there are a million ways to cheese it. I think if they do something like this again, it would be better if they temporarily give you a specific set of items. It's so hard to balance something like this when a player could have 1 goat hoof or 5 million. Phase 2 and 3 of the Voidling fight actually have 5 different variants, corresponding to Roost, Plains, Sanctuary, Sirens, and Abyssal. There's so much variety. Unfortunately, you can never really take the time to appreciate it because Voidling is the main focus, but I really like that they went for it here. A+ on the Voidling arena. It's just a shame there are more stage variants than Voidling has attacks. But the arena itself is one of my favorite maps in the game. It's not number 1 though. Number 1 is kind of a gimme, but come on. It's Sky Meadow. Sky Meadow is a map so iconic, it's been in both Risk of Rain 1 and Risk of Rain 2. You can actually see open chests on this map, and it's implied they were left by the survivors from the first game. Nice touch. This map is massive and filled to the brim with loot. In a normal, full looted run, 25 to 35% of your items come from this stage alone. This is the last stop on the bus before you have to fight Mithrix, and oh boy does it have a lot going on. The enemy types are extremely varied, from constructs to brass contraptions, elder Lemurians, wisps, greater wisps, Elon Mush, parents, gups, and for the bosses you have Solus units, grandparents, overlording worms, and Z constructs. Boo! Boo Z constructs! But hey, at least if you turn off the DLC, you get magma worms instead. You also have these geysers that will take you from one end of the map to the other. Unfortunately, they deal fall damage, and some of these just straight up kill you in Eclipse unless you use a feather or your mobility skill. So that's pretty sucky, but at least they tried it. And I do wish other maps had some form of travel like this. I'm looking at Siphon Forest. You got the artifact portal, which to be honest should have been in the main menu instead of here, but at least you can use it as an alternate escape route. The rain, formerly known as Purple, is also a fucking banger, which is a reference to both the song Purple Rain by Prince, as well as Prince changing his name to the artist formerly known as Prince in 1993 due to a legal dispute with Warner Bros. Records. What? How did I not know this? Additionally, the guitar riff that starts being repeated around 4:46 is a cover of the same guitar riff being played in Purple Rain around the same time. Similarly, the piano that can be heard around 6:35 is replicating the piano heard near the end of the song. Additionally, the symbol that Prince used can be seen faintly at the end of the YouTube video. Oh, there it is. What the hell? Thanks for scaring 2Wiki, I had no idea. Anyway, that's it. Do you agree with my list? Do you not agree? I don't know, yell at me in the comments. Now to address the elephant in the room, yes, I did make a very similar video to this 2 years ago where I ranked all the maps, but I don't think I did a very good job analyzing the maps in that video, and my opinions have changed a lot since then, so hopefully this is not too much of a rehash. Let me know what your favorite map is, and subscribe for more videos like this one. Thank you to my members for supporting the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Ta-ta for now.